Hi, I'm the Beery Godmother, and you're listening to the DC Beer Show.
Welcome, everyone, to the DC Beer Show. We are at DC Beer across social media, and we will see some of you tonight at the Sovereign, and more of you tomorrow at Metro Bar with Black Breweries. Cool. Brandy, what are you drinking this lovely, lovely day?
Your girl Brandy is drinking her absolute favorite style of beer. I, in my hand, have a nut brown ale, but this one's a barrel aged nut brown ale from none other than Elder Pine. Love the folks out at Elder Pine. I feel like I need to go visit again soon. 6.8, because I think feel like their normal nut brown doesn't hit that high, even though it's not high, but I think the barrel age really knocks it up a little bit. Beautiful. You can barely tell it's a barrel aged brown. I love this beer. I wish I could have it in my fridge literally at all times, but that's kind of unrealistic. Mr. Stein, it was great seeing you at the beer share recently. What a lovely beer share. Shout out to all of our new people. What are you drinking?
I am having Back to Earth Czech style Pilsner out of Kushwa, or Kushwe if you want to pronounce it incorrectly. Kushwa coming in strong, 5.2 ABV, Czech style Pilsner, lovely stuff. And I'm loving all the Czech beers. So yesterday, Brandy, seeing you at the DC Beer Share in DC at City State Brewing, have to say the dark lager, Czech style black lager at City State was just dynamite. So we are awash in Czech style beers, and we're awash in DC Beer shares in the district proper. Just knocked down City State. Wonderful time with James, the owner there. Met his wife and two kids. And then we're going to Hellbender. We're doing the DC Beer Share in DC again. But before we get into that, Mr. Berg, Jake Scoops Berg.
Scoops?
What's in your glass?
Well, Mike, you set me up so well for that, because what's in my glass is City State Torn Mag Czech style dark lager. On your way out of the beer share, having purchased beer at the brewery, because that's what we do. We pop bottles, but we also support the breweries. Figured may as well grab a sixer on the way out. It's 5%, but it drinks very full. It's got these nice, kind of like pipe tobacco vanilla notes to it. It's as the British like to say, it's a Moorish dark lager. I wouldn't peg it like right off the bat as Czech so much as it is like, this is just a tasty dark lager. Greg is doing some very, very good work over at City State. I know previously I big up Air Space, the West Coast IPA. Happy to big up Torn Mag, the dark lager, as well. All right, so we got Hellbender coming up next month. Watch this space. Weird brew news in Columbia, Maryland. Hysteria Brewing is for sale. And I say this to my colleagues here, we're all homeowners. And so we know the cost of real estate up here is like sky high. You can buy Hysteria right off the shelf. This is just Columbia, not the Anne Arundel County, Pasadena, Maryland tap room. That's different, separate ownership. Hysteria Brewing in Columbia for $699,000, which in some parts of DC,
That's not bad.
Actually, like a townhouse, right?
Barton, you know how much square footage that is? Oh.
I was gonna say, like, it's maybe not the best time to like be buying and opening a brewery, given some of the recent events, brewery openings, brewery closings around here. But at the same time, you've got Black Flag there, you've got Sapwood. I believe the second Kushwa tap room,
which is huge.
Yeah, Brandy,
it's
you've been
beautiful. It's
again,
like the old Frisco's, yeah.
Right, like not too far away. And you've got people who can get there from DC, as the Sapwood crew does. You got people who get there from Baltimore. We're talking about a pretty highly trafficked area, and in a place that would turn out for good beer in a cool setting. So,
do you think Kushwa would have us for a beer share? I mean, because I'd love to go to that space. Maybe, hey Kushwa, wink wink, come have DC beer.
Question existence. Kushwa, is it you we're looking for? Yes. Well, we really hope someone turns over that space. And to your point, Jake, There's a bunch in Colombia. I was joking with another brewing friend who, because we've closed so many closures, unfortunately, in 2024, like, hey, Stein, hey, Berg, where you at? You haven't covered this. What's going on? So, boom, we've done it. Now, the question is, can I text this brewer back and be like, hey, you want to buy?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my hope. But it's just great to see, Czech style beers. Yes, the city state black lager, it's different than the Czech lagers, just like how Kushwa's Czech style Pilsner is different than Czech style pills. This would sort of be like a premium pills or a specialny, as we say in Czech, because it's 5.2 ABV. Brandy, just like how your brown ale would not be 6.8 ABV in England,
Right.
like forget it.
Yeah.
No way.
No way.
But we love to see the creativity, and we're kind of all Maryland save the city state today with,
That's true.
Elder Pine and Kushwa. Jake, thank you for holding it down.
The DC Beer Show and the in DC Beer, we don't just do DC. We're the hub for the DMV, and we love to learn and meet with breweries and beer people, not only just in the DMV. So if you're drinking a good beer and you're in Cali, tag us. Like, we want to know. Like, if you're going to New Orleans, just let us know. I have some great breweries that I love down there. So we focus on the DMV because we want to show and support and give love to our local small businesses and breweries. But we love beer from everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm out in Cali, you know what I want to hear? Yeah, you got beer over there. And when I'm in Virginia, you know what I want to hear? Speaking of which, so the second piece of brewery news is sort of an update to our last show of 2023. We had Mike Earl on, ex other half at NRG. He was trying to do a crowdfunding, make a go of it over at the ex Bad Wolf, who'd also been on the show before when Richard Adam, the Brew Daddies, hosted. Crowdfunding to buy that and open up Wolf and Bear. Didn't work out, but someone else has come in, and so coming spring 2024 to Manassas is Brightworks Brewing. They are currently polling for some styles. Hey, community, what would you like to see us make? So if you go to the Brightworks Brewing Facebook page, I think you can take a look, perhaps vote over there. You can do what the three of us will do and vote for like Czech lagers, brown ale, something smoked. We are not opposed to going to Manassas.
Honestly, that's so
Good beer.
smart to I mean, a brewery, when you open it, is for the public. It's for the beer drinking public. So inviting remarks and input on what kind of styles of beer they should brew for their drinking crowd is brilliant.
Absolutely. That they're reaching out to what will be their customers for input is great. And it's really funny because we were lamenting with some brewers at the share. We had a couple brewers show up and we were like, oh, hazy IPA, you got to make it. I don't want to brew it, but I got to brew it. You got to
At
give the
least
people
one.
what they want. And the funny thing about it is there's a maxim, there's a saying that's been in breweries for 100 years. I've seen it in the 1920s. And the saying is, brew for the king, live like a pauper.
Ooh,
Brew for the paupers, live like a king. And what that
that's
means
hot.
is it's sustainable. I know you got to give people, you got to give the laboring classes, us poor bums, what we want. So we keep buying your product. Unlike if you brew for the palace, the one person who sits on the throne, you're going to live like everybody else that toils away in the palace for the king. So,
Beautifully said, Mike
um,
Stein. Oh, always
thank you,
with
Brandy.
the
I have to
eloquent
drop beer
words.
history. I have to. I'm not doing my job as resident beer historian if I don't drop that.
True.
All right, so we've kind of gone around the DMV here, but Brandy, you mentioned that we're not just in the DMV. We like to talk about beer lots of places, like, say, Atlanta, Georgia. Who is our guest today?
Well, luckily, we have the Beery Godmother on. And if you follow any sort of beer thing on social media, specifically Instagram, I feel like, because I'm the Instagram person, Jake and Mike do the Twitters or the X or whatever it is now. And he's like a prince at symbol. So, like, we know what we're talking about. I was so fortunate to get LaTreace Harris on, that who is the Beery Godmother. And we had a great, long, lengthy conversation. So we get to see her more in person in March 21st. So keep an eye out for that. But until then, we have a very, very special guest, one in which I've been super excited to have on the show. A, because I admire this person, but B, we have a lot of upcoming events. Not only are we rounding out Black History Month, but we are approaching Women's History Month. And we have an awesome event going on in March. So please let me proudly introduce our next guest, LaTreace Harris. You might know her as the Beery Godmother. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Brandy. It's a fantastic honor to be here. I've definitely been following DC Beer Show for a while. So, as a DMV native, I am excited to be a part today.
I can't wait to see you again. I officially met you at Snally, but we're gonna
Mhm.
have some fun times coming up here in March.
Absolutely.
Let's jump right into the questions because I have so many questions for you. First, I do want you to tell everybody about yourself really quickly.
Absolutely. So I'm LaTreace Harris again, the Beery Godmother, and I am a beer education consultant. I started my own beer education consulting company with the Beery Godmother name back in early 2022 officially. The Beery Godmother is really focused on bringing an awareness or illuminating, if you will, beer education and the importance of beer education, both from the perspective of making sure that breweries and brewery staff are properly educated. All the folks that are serving that beer and making sure that that beer makes it essentially from a brewer's vision all the way into the customer's hands, making sure that they are educated when they're behind the bar or they're conveying things about the beer. But also, I have a customer facing component to what I do as well. Really just trying to make sure that as a beer consumer, you are having the opportunity to be able to learn a little bit about the beer you're drinking in a more in depth and intimate way without it feeling unapproachable or too hard or this is not interesting because this is too far in the weeds. I think that craft beer has grown so much and there are so many different fun nuances about it that just make it more interesting than perhaps tasting in some ways different than beer used to taste. Although I would debate that we're coming back to the middle, back to some of those older styles now. But yeah, I mean, I think that my whole thing is really just making sure that education is not put on the back burner. I think it's something that as a consumer and as just a beer drinking individual, can really help change your experience and perhaps change the things that you buy, things that you try, buy, and consume overall. So that's
I
me
I
in a
completely
nutshell.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about social media real quick. You would
Mhm.
be considered to the general social media public slash platform to be an influencer. There are varying levels and ways in which one is a quote unquote influencer, from
Mhm.
just posting cans and can art to
Right.
posing and using your body image to sell an influence. And then there are educational and informative content creators. I absolutely love and respect how you are approaching content creation and using your platform and expertise as a cicerone to educate and inform, which, in my opinion, makes your content more powerful and beneficial. What led you to begin this Beery Godmother journey, and how do you feel you stand apart from the other beer content creators on, say, Instagram?
Oh wow, that's a great question. So I've always been, I would say, for the last 15 years or so, very heavily into beer. I think my journey was similar to everyone else's in terms of introduction to beer. Starting with some of those staples that we can most easily grab from the grocery store or the liquor store or whatever. Your Blue Moons, your Heinekens, your Coronas, etc. And after that growing into just a general curiosity around beer. I think that, as far as what I knew I wanted to do with the Beery Godmother, I wanted to become exactly what you pointed out, which is in the space of educational content influencer. I mean, I think, like you said, the term influencer to me initially was kind of like, well, that doesn't really fit me, right? Because I was thinking about it only in kind of the one lane of okay, I'm
Yes.
not my only thing that I'm going to do, I'm not just going to necessarily post a can or post when I'm at a brewery or something like that. And there is definitely space for that. That is not what I'm not knocking that at all. That there's a huge space for that, a huge need for that. But I knew that what I wanted to do was going to have to be very educational facing. And I kind of struggled a little bit in the beginning because I was like, how do I make sure I'm reaching my audience with something that is genuine to me that I think is super important? But how do I do it a little bit differently than what I've seen before? How do I take something that, can be semi short format, and make sure that it's interesting, make sure that it's engaging, and make sure that it's still putting what I would call objective education at the forefront. And so I've been very deliberate about that. I'm going to take things that you can actually go and read more about on your own, do additional investigation on your own. I'm going to introduce it from that perspective. So, when I started Beer Fact Fridays, which is something that, I think I've probably become the most known for, it
Oh
was
yeah.
very much like like I don't really know, I'm throwing something at the wall type thing. It kept staying on my heart. I'm not in my like personal life, I'm not like a real like social media presence. It's not like I'm on it all the time or doing all these things or whatever. And so I was like, I have to step my toe into the social media space and do this. And so one of the things that I know I wasn't seeing as much of, like I would see on Instagram, like, or YouTube, like full-fledged conversations about beer, right? Where people are sitting around kind of chatting about it and trends and all these things. And I was really enjoying that. But I was like, I want to bring that down to a more bite-sized component. So that's where Beer Fact Fridays was born. And I really also wanted to be consistent, right? I wanted to do a day that everybody was going to expect this to come out. That also held me accountable for making sure that I would do it because, I just like everybody else, am busy with a lot of other things and 9 to 5 and all these things. And so really just wanted to make sure that I could use my background in tutoring, actually. I used to be an in-home math and science tutor for like 15 years. Use that ability to convey information and put it into the Beery Godmother. So my biggest thing, the way I wanted to stand out was, okay, I want to break this information down. I want to give enough so that people are like, okay, I feel like I got something there, but like not so much that they're bored. And that is a constant balancing act as Beery Godmother and um, as my own credentials have grown. You mentioned I just became a certified Cicerone about a month and a half ago. So that was cool. But as the content has grown, as the audience has kind of grown with me, as I've started to tackle some of these things that are harder to touch, right? Like in order to give it justice, you have to do it in a way that's a little bit more complete. So like I think, viewers will have seen how, in the beginning, I think I was always around like 90 seconds, like boom, boom, quick hitter. And I still do some of those, 2 minute, 3 minute content, but some I've stretched out a little bit more because you just can't do certain topics justice without proper, discussion of them or proper description of whatever that thing is. So yeah, I continue to think about where I want to take Beer Fact Fridays, to make it different. I think people have probably been seeing me feature some breweries and brewers a little bit more on it. And that actually hasn't necessarily been my first thought on that was not to say, I'm going to feature this brewery because I want to feature the brewery, right? It was more so there's a topic area that as a Cicerone in my space, yeah, I could talk about it, but it does it more justice for people to see it or to hear about it from the folks that do it every day.
I
And so
agree.
as a result of that, yeah, it's kind of evolved in that way. So, I continue to kind of just do what I feel and do, what I think is what folks want to see slash what I'm into. Beery Godmother and everything I do with Beer Fact Fridays is very much driven by what I want to talk about at the time. You have to be in when you're conveying information, you have to be into it, right? You have to be like,
I
people
tell
can
people this
tell.
all the time.
Yeah, yes, Annie, yes. You can't
Yes.
just be, I will have a list. I have a running list of things that I have always said, like, I want to do this, all these different topics. But I'll get to the point where I'm getting ready to record content. I'm like, I'm not feeling that right now. Not
Yeah.
that it's not a good thing, but I'm not feeling it
Well,
right now.
you're jumping ahead because I
Yeah.
was going to ask you all these specific questions,
Oh,
but
cool. Yeah, go
uh,
ahead. Sorry,
but
go ahead.
but
Yeah.
but before the next question, pick quick question, real quick, hot fire, rapid round.
Okay.
Pick one, lambic or Roush. Got to pick one. Go.
Roush.
Okay, oh, that's my girl. Okay. Uh,
Yes.
what led you to earn your Cicerone certificate?
So I wanted, first of all, I'm a big advocate of education, period, right? So that's not just beer education, but all levels of education. And so education's always been really, really big in my life. And so when I got into this, I was so into it, and there were so many different facts that I wanted to make sure I could convey that I wanted um a measurable, concrete way to be able to give people an opportunity of what give people a taste of what I know, right? And Cicerone was something that I got into really, really quickly in terms of understanding, like, oh, it's a quantifiable way of kind of showing a bar of knowledge. Now, Cicerone is not 100% needed for all people in beer, right? I think you have to be very specific about what you want to use it for, but that was why I decided to pursue it. I mean, as an educator, I feel it was not just me saying, okay, I want to prove, quote unquote, that I can, teach this class, or I can have this interaction with this brewery. It was, you really do learn if you are genuine to the process and take your time through the process and learn and ingest all that information. You really are learning a great deal about, all aspects of the brewing process, styles, history, back of house work, line cleaning, all that stuff. You're learning the essentials. And if you're internalizing them, you will be a better conveyor of information to others. That was my big thing.
Exactly. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's an incredible answer, and what one I expected you to kind of say, but it's great to hear that,
Yeah.
especially being a woman who is into beer.
Yes.
I'm curious, what has been your favorite or most memorable highlight from being the Beery Godmother over the past year? And I think I'm asking specifically, was it with a specific follower or a company or brewery that you worked with, or even traveling, like when you visited Snell? Like what do you frequently look back upon and say, oh wow, I maybe wouldn't have been able to do this if I wasn't the Beery Godmother? Or
Oh
like
my
if you've had
God. Yeah.
interactions with your followers, and which you've made such an impact. We love sharing your content because it is educational,
Hmm.
and you are a woman in beer, and we all respect that. So I'm curious, and maybe we can circle back to it if you need to think about it for a second.
Yeah. Well,
Um
I will give two. I will give one. Can I give
okay.
two? Okay. One
Yes,
is an
yes, yeah.
interaction. Yeah.
Part
One is
A,
an
part B.
interact. Yeah. Part A, part B. So because I think it's one thing is interactions and one thing is experiences to me. Um. Gosh, I mean, I think as far as experiences, I think one of the most incredible experiences I've had in the last year was I went up to Oktoberfest at Schilling Brewing up in New
Oh,
Hampshire. And it was the most incredible experience. I mean, because I took a whole kind of road trip. I went from Boston up to New Hampshire, into Maine and Vermont, and spent kind of a whole week doing that, like, northeastern corridor. Absolutely incredible. When I think back on beer memories, that is one of the things that I really, really, really look back on, and I'm like, man, like this was just an experience that I will never forget. So that is like location. That's like a location related experience. Met a lot of really cool people. Obviously, nature is beautiful there, fantastic beer, et cetera, et cetera. Finale also goes in that same. We'll put those side by side.
yeah.
In terms of, yeah, for sure. In terms of, I think, interactions. I mean, I think it's been like some of the festivals that I've been able to go to, or and when I festivals slash conferences that I've been able to go to, specifically Crafted for Action, which is a beer conference that's held here in Atlanta by another fellow beer connoisseur, Jen Price. here in Atlanta that has been evolving over the years. I think having an opportunity to participate in that conference is like a structured mini beer conference. Has been fantastic. Similar feeling about the Craft Brewers Conference, CBC. I went to my first CBC in 2023. Fantastic, opportunity to just rub elbows with folks and talk to people and all of that. I
Because
mean,
beer
the
people are the
nerd
best
in me.
people.
The beer people are the best
They're
people. I
the
mean,
best. They're so
seriously,
nice.
literally the best. So nice. Had the opportunity, like I said, anybody, you just walk up to anybody, you're like, hi, this is
Yeah.
what I do.
It's so friendly.
Yeah, super friendly. And so I think, from those two experiences, and I think also, not just CBC, but also the National Black Brewers Association had an opportunity to convene their first kind of like bob share slash, folks that were interested in becoming members of the National Black Brewers Association all convened in Nashville as well. So that has, those are hands down experiences and interactions I've loved.
Great. I was hoping to get some good content here. So I love your
Awesome.
answer. I can't wait to
Okay.
hang out with you in person.
Oh my God.
By the way,
I know.
everybody, the Beery Godmother, LaTreace Harris, will be visiting DC the weekend of March 21st, as that is a huge weekend. Well, March 21st is the Women in Craft Beverage panel at Other Half, and I have curated 10 absolutely star-studded, big impact women and non-binary people in the industry. And one of my first wants was Beery Godmother. And I reached out and I was like, this might be out of the left field, but would you be able to come? And she's like, yes, because I do respect and appreciate what you're doing. I have a couple more questions. Before the last big question, last quick pick question. Pick quick, ready?
Right.
Double IPA or oyster stout?
Double IPA.
All right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I was expecting you to answer. Okay.
Yeah.
So for me specifically, I know that when I'm with women in beer, I am very much admiring of those who continue to pave the way and get back to women being in beer, because that was not in the equation for such a long time. And when you think of beer, you don't think of women and you don't think of women in color, but it is absolutely empowering and important to see not only more women providing beer education, but also being a woman of color doing so. Where do you see this heading, and what is your ultimate goal or impact that you'd love to come from this? And let's just say 5 years from now.
Oh, wow. So when I am looking at my vision board and wanting to dream big and think about all the different spaces that I'd like to touch, I mean, I think they are expanding the education that I do around beer outside of breweries into other spaces. Whether that be food and beverage, whether that be, like restaurants, whether that be hotels, whether that be, let's just make it big sports teams, like, place anywhere that they serve beer, there needs to be an education around what that beer is, what that beer contributes, and some type of strategic thinking, to be really honest, around how that's going to be marketed. And so, I plan to really push in those spaces, continue to go into the space of maybe not just education, but consulting in some other ways. I mean, I think allowing my expertise in, my 9 to 5 of, strategic planning and, kind of brand building, if you will, kind of helping people plan a little bit differently around the way that they work in beer. That's one of the things I'm hoping for. Also, just continuing to be, I think being a woman in beer, absolutely big moniker to carry. Being a woman of color, being a Black woman in beer is enormous. And I think there's, for me, a constant consciousness of that. But at the same time, wanting to make sure that I'm not just being chosen for things because I'm a Black woman. I want to be chosen to be at the table and be a part of these conversations because I am a knowledgeable woman. a knowledgeable individual around these topics. And yeah, it's a lot of conversation, around this. And I think a lot of, people come out of the weeds, particularly around Black History Month and Women's History Month, to try to be inclusive of us. But, you need to be inclusive of us all year round, us being
I
women and
completely
women
agree.
of color. And so, yeah, just trying to think about that. Also, I, intend to continue to expand my knowledge in terms of judging and being at the beer judges table. I think that is a space that, I think we're seeing more women slowly creeping into that realm. I've been super excited to see, some of my mentors be at the judges table for some of these large scale, judging competitions around the country. But, women of color aren't there, and so I want to do more of that. I think it's just trying to make the impact as big as possible without diluting it. I think is the key, without kind of saying, okay, well, the message of Beery Godmother is getting diluted. Always going to be the balance I'm going to be trying to strike. So 5-year goal, big pushes into some different spaces, and continuing to just raise awareness around beer, but also around how education at all levels can help
Yes.
to kind of grow and continue to foster growth in the craft beer community.
Wonderful, wonderful response. I am very passionate about this. Last year, after speaking at the women's panel, I wanted to create the Women's Brew Culture Club,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very educational based
Love it.
environment, because a lot
Yes.
of women in beer they assume that, you just want a fruity drink or you don't know anything about beer. I've been
Exactly.
mansplained to
Exactly.
1,000 times. They're
Yes.
like,
So many
I'm like,
times. Oh,
can you tell me about this beer? And they're like, oh, well, it tastes like a wine. I'm like, that's not what
but
I'm
no, that's
no.
not. No, that's not it.
Yes.
Not it. Yeah. Yeah.
So I not only respect you as a person, but I respect what you bring to the beer platform. And before we say goodbye, I want to tell our listeners that you'll get even more of an opportunity to talk to LaTreace in person and get to know her, because she's so fantastic at this women's panel. It's going to be more of a round table, round robin. Everyone's going to break off into groups, and you'll get to actually have one-on-one and learn and get to know more about the Beery Godmother. Before we say goodbye, LaTreace, what are you drinking right now?
I got a package in the mail from you all's very own Jordan Harvey.
Hey, Jordan.
Beer is around the way. He is a friend of mine, and so he sent me the People's Pale Ale, which is you all's collaboration with Strange Fruit. Also love them. He sent me some of their approachable guys, as well as his beer that he did with the Harvey Wilder Foundation. So that's what I'm drinking.
What are your thoughts?
Right now.
Let's get an
Well,
official
this
Beery
is gonna
Godmother
be let's
thoughts.
get a live thought around what I think here. Oh man, first of all, I mean the aroma is fantastic. And I'm like wondering. Oh, yep, I knew it. So like you all immediately, New Zealand hops are extreme. You can smell them immediately. They're gorgeous. They're what I brewed one of my first beers with. So absolutely love the aroma there, because you know what you're about to get, and I'm like excited about this. Oh man. So instantaneously, I love how it is hop focused, yet still staying in that pale ale range. Not super bitter, but you can taste the hop, which I like, because right where it should be, and it's not too sweet. Like it's not, you don't have any of that cloying sweetness. It's actually finishing kind of a little dryish to me, but I love that. Like this is, I mean, I'd want to like chug it down. I'm like, honestly, I
Go for
used to be a big IPA. Yeah, I used to. I was a huge IPA lover. I will say, like before I started deeply, deeply studying for all the aspects of Cicerone, which involves like a tasting exam, and so I had to get deep into lagers and pilsners and other types of beer. But I was always like an IPA lover, and over time, I've moved more so into like the pale ale space, because I just can't down. I mean, my body won't, it rejects double IPA and all these things. The way that I just can't drink I love them, but I can't drink as much as I used to. So this is fantastic.
We're very proud of how that turned out. Beautiful, beautiful beer. LaTreace Harris,
beer.
Beery Godmother. I'm so thankful that you came on to the DC Beer Show. And for everyone, please come hang out with us. Mark your calendars for March 21st. You'll get to meet the Beery Godmother in person, which is kind of a big deal. And we're all going to be drinking and learning together. So Miss Beery Godmother, the queen, the Beery Godmother queen, thank you so much for joining us. And I will see you in a month. Cheers.
That sounds great. Cheers, Brandy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, LaTreace. Thank you, Brandy. Save that date. Obviously, also in March, the aforementioned Hellbender Beer Share. It will be open to everyone, not just the good folks at Patreon. Again, yes, the 10th. We'll have the RSVP form up for you in short time. But, save the date, all of that. Also save the date because Maryland Craft Beer Fest up in Frederick, Carroll Creek.
Oh, I love that event.
May 11th, 2024. That's a Saturday. We've got a date. So, keeping things very Maryland today. We'll throw that out there. Brewers Association of Maryland tickets are on sale for that as well.
What about the Lost Dog People's Pale Sunday session on March the 3rd or 2nd? Is the 3rd? It's the 3rd. Yeah, March the 3rd.
Why, I hear that you could get for $5 one 16-ounce tall boy can of the People's Pale Ale, currently sitting at about like a 4 or so on Untapped, which is a nice place to be. Granted, I think Untapped sucks sometimes if you look at where like Allagash White is, or say Port City's award-winning Oktoberfest. But the
$5 a can, Jake. Are you yanking my chain?
I am not. You mentioned brewing for the paupers. We're pricing this for the paupers, Mike.
When I go to my local food co-op, I can't even get my vegan Ready Whip for $5 a can.
Exactly. Also, our Patreon members get to come to a beer share once a month for minimum a $5 a month membership fee. Like our beer shares, you drink for 3 hours, you bring in special bottles. It's basically a $5 3-hour beer share at minimum. Yeah. Obviously, we support our hosts, but I mean, what a silly thing not to do, and then you get to listen to great podcast guests. And y'all, if you aren't a member of DC Beer, you get discounts at City State, you get discount at the Arlington Brew Shop, at DC Brew. I mean, I'm not even going to sit here and list all of the things because it's not a long episode. So just do it. It's fun. We're cool. Help keep the podcast going. Yeah. We're gonna be annoying and give you that little banner that Wikipedia does. Like, hey, support. If you want this to keep going, support now.
We promise you not to pop up on your search, but we will say for $5 you can become a patron on DC Beer's Patreon, and you get beer share in. The deal is such a deal.
Yeah.
So
agreed.
Join us.
Well, I'll see you all at Lost Dog Cafe on the 3rd, and I'll see you at the beer share on the 10th, and of course the women and beverage panel at Other Half on the 21st. We will have a podcast between now and then, so keep your ears open. But until then, enjoy the rest of your February, Black History Month. Please, obviously, always go support your Black-owned beverage, Black-owned beer, Black-owned small businesses, and be a good person, of course.
3-3, you know the place to be. Lost Dog, me, Brandy, Justin, Steve, all of your friends and not yet soon to be friends will be there. Come see us at 3-3 Lost Dog. Come see us at Hellbender on 310. Come see us at Other Half on 321. It's gonna be a big March. And as you know, our feelings are the same as Dr. J. Black History Month is every month. So come see us 3-3, 310, and 321.
Yeah, and come see Jordan and I at 224 tomorrow at Metro Bar. We'll take you out. On that note, be well, everybody, and please welcome both Notch and Dovetail and their lovely, lovely lagers to DC and Virginia. Maryland sucks to suck. Sorry. All right. Be well, everybody. We're out.
Bye, guys. Cheers.